Wednesday morning, and in our studio, he's becoming a regular now. It's Daniel Clifton, editor of the Picayune. Good morning, Daniel.
Morning. Better to be regular than irregular, eh?
No
Especially
kidding.
in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you're here. We're going to talk about the latest edition of the Picayune, which is out today. You'll find it on your doorsteps, and if you're not finding it on your doorstep, listen at the end of the conversation, and we'll tell you how you can go about getting the latest edition of the Picayune. Some good stories in there this week, Daniel. I love the story about the Craddock House. We've been hearing about the big move that they were going to be making for a long period of time, and y'all kind of followed that story, and it all comes to a head this week in the Picayune.
They finally moved it. It seems like it was like every week. It's like, okay, we can move it.
Yeah.
But then the rain, and the rain would muddy up the fields, and you can't pull it into where it was going. And so, yeah, they moved it this past Sunday.
And I could see why, too, just that little bit of rain, after hearing what a process this was and how intricate. I mean, they at one point had like 6 inches between a building and a tree or something that they had to maneuver this 100-year-old building. So I can see why it was quite a process, and it's so neat that it happened.
Yeah. Even though it was a thumbs up to move it, they still, when they moved it to where the property Mount Airy or Airy Mount, rather,
Airy Mount,
it got stuck there, and they had to bring in another. They had to get another truck to come out and pull them both out. So,
oh, my goodness.
So they did, and then it did. They found, just to let you know, they found ruby slippers
Underneath the house.
underneath the house. Something about it's not made. They wanted to know if this was Kansas.
You know, making a big move like that, I mean, that's something else to be able to do that. But when you got a house that's 100 years old,
Oh, my
I'm
gosh.
surprised that it stayed together.
I wonder if they were holding their breath the whole time, like,
I'm
oh,
sure
come
they
on,
were.
come on. Oh, it's kind of leaning. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing to be able to do that.
And it shows you they don't make them like they used to.
I know. I can barely back up a trailer, a 10-foot trailer. Can you imagine hauling that down the road?
They would not want me driving that thing, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you don't want to get stuck behind that in traffic.
No. And you're hoping they didn't go through any drive-through. Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
There was only a 10-foot room right there, and we just lost the second floor.
Well, the move of the historic Craddock House, you can find the full story and pictures on the front page of this week's edition of the Picayune. Also in this week's edition, I was reading this story, and I've never even heard of this syndrome before, but a Marble Falls family afflicted by Angelman syndrome?
Angelman syndrome. Their little girl, I think she's, I forget the age now, but she's 8. I don't know how old she is, but she was born with it, and they realized that when she was as a baby, that she had this syndrome. And they were the same way, Mark and Lena Richard, and the wonderful couple. I met them not long after they got the diagnosis several years back, and then Connie followed up with them recently. But yeah, it's a very rare syndrome. And
Explain to our listeners what it is, the Angelman
Well,
syndrome.
it just affects the whole development of the child, and I think one of the things when that first realized what she had was she kept crying at night and she never really slept. And so as a child, and for them, she never really slept. They never really slept.
Right.
So it was a really, as a parent, it was just an unknown, and when they diagnosed, and there's not much known about it. And that was the thing, like you said, you never know. Who knew about it?
Right.
But they probably never knew about it, and very few people do. And now there's an International Angelman Day that's coming up on the 15th, and Mrs. Richard, she's really active in one of the organizations, so trying to get words out about what it is and how to and just research. There's really no research done in it. So,
well, as I said, I didn't know anything about it until I read the story of the Picayune. You need to read it too. So that's in this week's edition. And of course, we can't close out without talking about our big Valentine's Day ceremony coming up Saturday at the Burnet Courthouse.
All right, yeah, and this is a big day for y'all, right?
Indeed.
No, but it's everybody. It's getting hitched.
That's right, and it's been wonderful too. The local businesses that have rallied around the event to provide us with some fun things to give everybody that participates. Edgar Flowers and Gifts giving us some flowers. Texas Tealicious bringing over some yummy sandwiches.
Oh, that's right there.
And Cookie Cafe and Bakery providing us with some delicious cupcakes too.
Cupcakes.
Yeah. And those
gonna be
that
a
are
lot of
listening, if you want to get married this morning, you have until noon.
Yeah.
You can still get the marriage license this morning, but noon will be the cutoff.
Noon
and you
today.
got to have that in hand on Saturday.
And you have to, if you want to get married at noon on Saturday.
Yeah, exactly.
I had to do the math and try to figure out 72 hours.
Yeah.
What is it? It's at noon.
Carry the one.
It's noon. And also, if you want to renew your vows, people can just show up, and we'll do that. But read all about it. It's in the latest edition of the Picayune, which is available with a new one out today. If you're not getting it on your doorsteps, tell them how to do that, Daniel.
You call up front at 830-693-7152, and they will get you on the list and get you hooked up.
And remember, as always, the Picayune is
Free!
Daniel Clifton, editor of the Picayune. Good to see you, bud.
All right.